What's the situation most similar to a scene that you've lived through? Story 1. My parents hired a guy to build a garage in the backyard. He was pretty tall and muscular, around 35 years old. On the first day, he came to measure the yard, and when he saw me for the first time, he gave me such an intense once-over that my legs were shaking. He was an incredibly attractive Russian, and the fact that we were completely alone, he working, me doing homework, made me think there might be a chance to make a move. I was 18 at the time, and the idea of hooking up with this man drove me absolutely wild. And that's exactly what happened. On his last day, we gave in, and it was the most intense experience of my entire life. The revolution in digital payments has finally arrived with the Bitrefil debit card, your gateway to an unprecedented shopping experience. Imagine using your favorite cryptocurrencies for all your everyday purchases, both online and in physical stores, simply by tapping your phone. The Bitrefil card turns this dream into reality, offering the most intuitive and seamless way to spend your digital assets. Top up your card instantly with a variety of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or stablecoins, enjoying minimal conversion fees and zero hidden charges. With a generous spending limit of up to 15,000 euros per month, the possibilities are endless. Accepted at millions of merchants across Europe and worldwide, your Bitrefil card will be with you for every purchase. Plus, this virtual card, backed by a solid European license, guarantees security and peace of mind with every transaction. Don't miss the chance to transform the way you spend and dive into the financial freedom only Bitrefil can offer. So apply for your Bitrefil card today and live the new era of personal finance. Story 2. After graduating, I went back to the city where I studied for a housewarming party. Since I had moved away, I arranged with my friends to crash on their couch afterward. The night was great. We all drank a lot, and a college friend I'll call Marissa showed up too. She was also from out of town and planned to sleep on the couch, which luckily was a big L-shaped one with plenty of room for both of us. I'd always been attracted to Marissa, but during the 2 years I knew her, she had a boyfriend from Europe. He'd visited for a few weeks, so I got to meet him. He was genuinely a cool guy. I'd never try anything with Marissa, but if she made the first move, it'd be hard to resist. The party ended, everyone went to bed, and I was ready to crash too. But Marissa refused and insisted we watch the first episode of her favorite show, Shameless, which we'd been talking about earlier. So we started watching, cuddled a bit, and I was just enjoying the moment in the show. Well into the second episode, Marissa stands up, blocks the TV, stares me dead in the eyes, and takes off her pants. I thought, holy shit, Marissa, I don't know if I can hold back, thinking she'd taken the initiative. But I snapped back to reality when I saw her squat down and realized she was actually sleepwalking and drunk, about to pee on the floor. I rushed over, carried her to the bathroom, and we still laugh about it a couple of years later. Story 3. I had a pretty embarrassing situation with my boss's wife while working at a restaurant. One day, coworker slipped and spilled all the drinks on me while I tried to catch her. Since my boss lived above the restaurant, he offered to let me go upstairs to shower and clean up. I happily accepted. But no one had told his wife. She thought it was her husband in the shower and decided to surprise him. She sneaked into the bathroom, which had no lock, stripped naked, and yanked open the shower curtain in a pose. Imagine her shock when she saw it wasn't her husband but me, standing right in front of the curtain. We froze for a few seconds, staring at each other, until she slammed the curtain shut as fast as she'd opened it and bolted out, apologizing over and over. Once she left, I couldn't help but laugh at what had just happened. I finished showering, went downstairs, and told my boss. He cracked up and asked if I liked what I saw. After I said yes and got a pat on the back, I went back to work like nothing happened. I never brought it up with the boss's wife, but he sometimes joked about it when the three of us were alone. Story 4. During winter break, my neighbor got locked out of her apartment in the complex, and I was the only one still around. The super with the master key had gone to his girlfriend's place 4 hours away and wouldn't be back for a couple of days, though he might return early. If we called the complex manager, my neighbor would get a €200 fine for losing her keys, and the super we all liked would get fired. So I offered Lydia, my neighbor, to stay at my place since there was plenty of room. She agreed to hang out until she found another option, and after a few unanswered calls, she decided to stay. That night we ordered pizza and watched a movie until she fell asleep on the couch. I put a pillow under her head, covered her with a blanket, and went to bed. Surprisingly, I woke up to find her next to me in bed. The next 2 days were spent watching movies, cooking, and, intimate moments. Lydia had this habit of walking around the house in just a t-shirt, underwear, and socks, which made every encounter more spontaneous. Story 5. I was once at the bar and club area of our city with friends. I'd just gone through a tough breakup, my engagement got called off, and that night I let loose, drinking and dancing nonstop. I had a bunch of those liquor store shots. There was a 10-4, 10 deal, and I used them to get drunk cheap. It didn't take long to notice a girl dancing on the floor. She was with a guy, but they didn't seem close, more like friends. The friend, pretty drunk, took another drink she bought him, and I offered to buy her one, but she declined. Turns out he was a co-worker, nothing between them. I thought nothing would happen until she started dancing again. In my drunken state, I approached and jokingly danced in front of her. Somehow, 45 seconds in, we started kissing. It lasted a few minutes with my friends filming and laughing until they finally left us alone. We both agreed we needed to release some tension, so we left the bar and ducked into an alley right next door. I felt so out of it that I winked at my friends and told them to go on without me. In the alley, we kept kissing. I slipped my hand into her pants, and somehow in just a minute or two, I got her to climax just with my fingers. Suddenly, she asked if I wanted more, right there in the alley, in public, though no one else was around. She undid my pants and started right there. Meanwhile, there was a back entrance to the bar, and people started walking through the alley to get in, passing right by us. Everyone pretended we weren't there, and it was probably the wildest, most thrilling experience I've ever had, pushing every limit. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Would I do it again? Absolutely. I got her number afterward. She was Irish, in town for work, and left the next day. Story 6. Last week I had a date with a really attractive girl. She had an amazing body and a beautiful face. She was stunning. As we were finishing dinner, we started talking about pretty unusual topics for a first date. I don't remember exactly what I said, but at one point she stopped, looked at me seductively, and asked, "Would you like to come back to my place and get into some mischief?" My jaw dropped. I'd never had that happen before. Story 7. The carpenter remodeling my room thought I was gay. I'm straight, but the situation led to confusion. We were alone in the house. I'd just gotten out of the shower wrapped only in a towel and accidentally stared at his shirtless torso, wondering what his gym routine was. I must have looked too intense because he immediately came over and tried to kiss me. I pushed him away, laughing and saying no. He thought my lingering stares were an invitation. Lesson learned: be more aware of how I look at people. Story 8. My roommate and I were hosting friends at our apartment. After drinks and saying goodbye to everyone, I started cleaning up while she went to bed. Suddenly I got a text from her asking me to keep her company because she felt dizzy from the alcohol and wanted someone there. So I went to her room and sat in a chair by her bed. She was lying face down under her blanket, and we chatted casually. Between laughs, she said I could sit on the bed if I wanted. I moved to the edge of the bed, and that's when I realized she was naked under the sheets. Story 9. Back when I delivered pizzas, a woman answered the door in an outfit that left little to the imagination, almost completely see-through. I think she noticed my eyes locked on her chest, and without missing a beat, she mentioned that she and her husband were open in their relationship. She invited me in, but nerves got the better of me and I declined. Then, just like that, she took off her top and paid for the pizza. Story 10. Years ago, my parents weren't thrilled when my sister came out as lesbian, so they didn't invite her to Thanksgiving dinner. I decided to support her and joined the Orphan Gay Thanksgiving she organized with our friends instead of going to my parents. There I met a girl I really clicked with, though given the event, I assumed she was lesbian too. Later, while washing dishes, she said, "I think we're the only two straight people here." I replied, "I think you're right." And she said, "That means we should hook up." And we did. Story 11. In the summer of '99, I was on vacation in Ibiza, staying in one of those concrete monstrosities designed for loud, rowdy Brits. One afternoon, while having drinks on the balcony before heading out, I heard screaming. Looking over, I saw two women waving and yelling from their balcony. They'd locked their sliding door, and the latch had fallen, trapping them outside. They shouted their room number, so I went down to reception to tell the staff, who were already swamped. They came up with me, entered the room, and freed the women. I don't remember why, but one of the women and I took the elevator down to reception and back up, maybe to return a master key the staff had given us. In the elevator, just 3 minutes after meeting her, she asked, "How can I thank you?" Jokingly, I said, "Well, we could always make out," and laughed. To my shock, she said, "Yes, why not?" Heart racing, unsure if she was serious, she grabbed my hand and took me to her room. Turns out the room she'd been locked out of was her friend's, and, well, we hooked up. I was barely 19, she was 25, and it was, without a doubt, a fun experience. Story 12. I'm a girl, and I was living with my ex-girlfriend in a tiny, run-down studio where there was barely room for a queen bed. Everything was fine until we had to call an electrician to check the outlets. He was a young guy, about 21, and we were a couple of years older. We didn't want to hover while he worked, so we sat and half lay on the bed in this awkward position, trying small talk. I couldn't take the silence anymore and blurted out the first thing that came to mind. "Wow, this feels like the start of one of those movies, right?" I didn't mean anything by it. It just seemed funny and weird, and I tend to say dumb stuff. My girlfriend shot me a look, trying not to laugh. The poor guy froze, turned bright red, stared at me, then whipped his head back to the outlets, so fast I thought he'd snap his neck. The rest of the time was pure awkward tension. He stuck to strictly professional talk, and we tried not to die of embarrassment. Story 13. In high school, I had a close friend. Our friendship grew as we passed notes in class. I was really into her, but she'd had a boyfriend for 2 years, and I didn't want to be the guy who hits on taken girls, so I kept it a subtle flirting in our notes. Being an artist even back then, my notes were full of drawings. One day, amid the flirting, she wrote something like, "You're a great artist. We should do a Titanic thing sometime," referring to the scene where Leo draws Kate naked. Basically, she was inviting me to draw her nude, and if we followed the movie, the next part would be sex in the car. Up to that point, I'd never had sex or a real girlfriend, so I probably replied something lame like, "Yeah, it'd be cool to draw you sometime." It stayed up in the air. We never made plans. I was too insecure to push it, and she only mentioned it occasionally after that. I don't regret it because soon after, I met the woman who's now my wife, but it's wild to think how close I came.